All right, so what are the steps you need to make bread? What's the first thing you need? Jazz, I heard you talking. What was the first thing you need? You just said it a second ago. Yeah, what do you need? Eggs, very good. What else do you need? What else? Milk, okay. Flour. Yeast. All right, very good. Then what do you do with all that stuff? Mix it together. In a what? In a bowl. And what do you do with that bowl? No, what do you do? What do you do with it first? You got to put it somewhere so it can relax a little bit. Put it in the fridge. Very good. After it relaxes a little bit, you take it out, and then what do you do with it? Oh, you first got to do what though? Roll. You got to knead it. Okay. After that, then you can put it where? Then where do you put it after you knead it? In the pan, right? And then you put the pan where? In the oven. You let it cook. You take it out. You let it cool, right? Because it'll rise and cool. All those steps to make bread. That's just for one loaf. Can you imagine if you had to make, let's say, 100 loaves? How long would that take? You only got one oven. Think of your oven at home. How long would it take you to make 100 loaves of bread? 2 days, maybe? Right? So I want you to think about the individual making something, right? You individually make it takes a long time. Is there a way you can make it faster and a lot more? If you had more people, okay? If you had more people, or you had a bigger what? A machine or a bigger oven. So as we go through this today, we're going to really look at the agricultural revolution and how it's changed the world. So it's the second agricultural revolution. And why was England the birthplace of it? Why did it happen in England? Your learning targets, you'll be able to explain how the second agricultural revolution made industrialization possible and why it happened in England first. Our skill today, you're going to be using that second piece of paper I handed out earlier, the map, and you're going to fill in the map, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Now I need you to write this down, the 4 factors of production. You're going to need this in your notes because of the assessments you'll be given at the end of the unit. So write down the 4 factors of production. Emily, can you read the first one for me? What's factor 1? Labor, meaning you need people to work it. Okay, so factor 1 is labor. Pedro, you read number 2 for me. Land, you need land, because you need to actually plant your stuff where? On the land, all right? Number 3, let's go, well, what's number 3? Capital. You need things like tools to help you cultivate it, use it, how to pick it, things like that. And then finally, number 4, let's go with Randy. What's number 4? You know it? You know that word? It's a vocab word, so I'll give it to you. It's entrepreneurship. And what does it mean, Randy? People who create a business, the people that have the money to help you get a business going. Okay? So when we think about that loaf of bread, it's going to take one person several days to make 100 loaves. But when you have these 4 factors of production, it might be quicker. We're going to see how that plays out. So, again, the 4 factors of production: labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurship. Labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurship. Make sure you have that written down. How did people farm before machines? What did they do? What did a farmer have? Their hands, or they use what? Tools. What tool?
Sickle.
A sickle, or what went behind the cow or the horse? That wasn't a wagon, starts with a P. A plow. Okay, the old plow would basically dig a trench as the horse pulled it, right? And behind that the farmer would either drop a seed, and behind him, a child would come and cover it, or his wife. So it took one horse, one farmer, one plow, one wife or kid to work it, the whole system. If you had 1,000 acres, how long do you think it would take you to plow that? 1,000 acres is, let's say relatively from Harbor to City Park. A few days, maybe? Okay, that'd take a while. One person, it takes a long time. They use the plow, and then you got people to take it. Now, the second agricultural revolution is all about crops. We're gonna start looking just at the crops alone. The Enclosure Acts was a series of United Kingdom acts of Parliament which enclosed open fields and common land in the country, creating legal property rights to land that was previously considered common. So what does that mean? Remember when the king was in charge of everything? We talked about the king of England in charge and how they wanted to stop him, he was abusing his power. They came up with parliaments and all that stuff, constitutional monarchy. Well, part of that was the king owned all the what? Land. But once he lost some of his power, a lot of that had to do with he lost land, some of his land. It became common land, meaning everybody can use it. So here's gonna be our example. Jazz is a farmer. Jazz's family farms. But Jazz is a farmer, and Jazz only takes care of Jazz's family. So she only cultivates enough crops to feed who? Jazz and repeating. Your people, all right? That all changes with this, the United Kingdom Acts of Parliament. What again happens is, the land then gets taken away from the common people like Jazz, and is given to lords, okay, the rich, wealthier people, like Emily. So, Emily comes to Jazz one day and says, hey, no more farming on my land. And Jazz goes, wait a minute, this is everybody's land. And they're like, no, not any longer. Now, if you want to farm, Jazz, here's the deal. You have to work for Emily. Okay? You can farm, but you gotta give her half of what you make, as in what food you produce. Before, you barely had enough food for your family, right? Now you're giving half of that away to Emily. When this happened, the big farmers, or the big landowners like Emily, started experimenting with ways to increase and improve crops. This led to more food provided by fewer farmers. Because Emily's land was so big, she didn't need all those little independent farmers. Okay? So with that being said, small farms, like Jazz's, could not compete. Because here's what happened. Emily had these big farms. And they both were farming corn, Emily and Jazz. Jazz had some extra corn, so she tried to sell it. Corn used to sell for, let's say, 35 cents a bushel. Well, Emily has so much corn that she took it to the market, and the market said, man, you have so much, we don't have to pay you 35 cents anymore, we'll pay you 25 cents. And Emily's like, that's fine, I got so much, that's great, I'll make a lot of money. Jazz goes, wait a minute, I was expecting 35 cents. I just lost 10 cents, I'm losing more money. So the small farmers couldn't compete anymore. They could not compete with the big farmers. So they had a choice, either go work for the big farmers, or they're gonna have to move. Okay? They have to leave where they're from and move somewhere to find work. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Anybody know anybody who's had to do that before? Leave and try to find work? Maybe. We talked about it last unit, that happened quite a bit with some people. Now, how crops improve. Jazz only had that one horse, that one plow. It would take her several days to plow that whole field. Now, Emily comes along, she has this thing called a seed drill. This is one of your vocab words, so make sure you write it down. The seed drill quickly plants seeds and makes crops grow faster. Basically what it was 10 shoots and 10 plows all in one. It would come in, dig a trench, drop a seed, and then cover it up. Right away, look, there's only one man in the front and one man in the back to make sure everything's going smooth. It's not a big operation. It's got 3 horses. That's with it. It's getting pulled by an army of horses. The idea behind this is that you can plant quicker in more of an area, so it can start growing. So what we thought would take Jazz a few days to do that whole 1,000 acres would take them a half a day because of the seed plot. They could plant 10 seeds every 3 feet, or every 2 feet. Where Jazz, it would take her, in the same amount of time to plant that many seeds, at least like 30 minutes. Okay? Now they did crop rotation. How many of you guys have been out to Brentwood lately? Okay, usually during the summer, what does Brentwood grow? Anybody know? Corn. Where are they growing now? Strawberries, pumpkins. All right. The reason they do that is they want to rotate the crops in the soil because certain crops take certain nutrients out of the soil. If you only grew the one crop every time, your soil gets depleted of that nutrient. But if you rotate, that means that soil can recultivate that nutrient and let it grow. So that's the idea behind crop rotation. They learned this. And then finally became selective breeding, meaning they would have bigger and healthier animals. They're horses. Remember I said Jazz had that one horse? Jazz's one horse would maybe live 12, 15 years. Horses now are living close to 20. They're bigger and stronger because they had more food to eat. Another idea to look at selective breeding is, if you look at the picture of my dog, not the one on the left, but the one on the right. When I went to buy my Roddy, I knew I wanted certain things about the dog. I knew I wanted a German line. I wanted a big head, a block head. I knew I wanted the biggest one of the litter. And I knew I wanted it to have a little bit of Schutzen in it, or in its bloodline. So the first few breeders I contacted, I found out right away which ones were German line, big heads, if the biggest one of the litter was still available, and if there was Schutzen line in the, or Schutzen blood in the line. Found a breeder in Rockland that had German line, which I wanted. So it meant that the dogs were related to dogs from Germany, not from the US or from anywhere else in Eastern European. I wanted straight German line. And I found out that the mom and dad both had block heads. Saw the picture of the puppy, she was gonna have a block head. Found out that the puppy that I wanted was actually the biggest one of the litter, not just the biggest female, the biggest dog of the litter. My dog weighs close to about 100 pounds. She's a big girl, but she's a big, strong girl. And then I found out, tracing the father's line, that the father does have Schutzen in his line. The father was a champion, the grandfather was a champion, and the great-grandfather were champions. So I found out it had everything I wanted. So I was looking for selective breeding. I wanted to find the bigger and the healthiest animal. And I was able to find that. But I was able to do that because I knew what I was looking for, okay? How is increasing food production going to impact society? Well, we talked about their animals getting bigger and stronger. What do you have to be big and strong? Nutrients, food, you gotta eat. You have to eat. Okay, to be big and strong, you have to eat. Okay, how many of you guys heard that when you were kids, or little kids? Come on, yeah, see, a few of you have heard it. You gotta eat to be big and strong. Now the effects of this, small farmers move to the city. Jazz says, I am not gonna work for Emily. That's not fair. So I'm gonna move to the city. I heard there's these places growing up in the city that I can work at. I'll work in a factory, I'll get paid, and I'll live and it'll be okay. Food supplies and better living conditions increase population. Because there's more food, because people like Emily are getting these big farms, people are being able to live and the population is increasing. We're gonna talk about why that is in a second. Now, there's more demand for food and clothing because there's more people. In a few minutes. There's more demand for more food and there's more demand for clothing because of people. So what makes clothes? Where are clothes made? Factories. So in order to have more clothes, you have to have more what?
Production?
More production, and that's made where? Where do you produce things? In a factory, okay? Now, the birth and death rates in Victorian England. Before, when Jazz was living on her farm, before Emily took all the farms away, the death rate was high. All right, the birth and death rates were high because most people had small or unreliable food supplies. They did not have enough food. Not enough food. So let's look at this. Why do you think the babies were dying?
Starving?
Because what? Starvation. Ladies, what's your only job at this time? You have 3 jobs, what are they? Cook, clean, and what? Have babies. Alright? And at this time, the having baby part was hard. Because there wasn't enough food to go around. Now, do babies come out eating a meal? You know, eating stuff? No, what do they need?
Milk,
Milk. And who's got to supply the milk?
mom,
So that means the mom has to be what?
milk,
Healthy and strong. How do moms become healthy and strong? They need what?
food,
Food. So you notice, during the second agricultural revolution, the increased amount of food led to a decrease in the death rates, causing the population to increase. It wasn't that adults were doing the nasty more. It was the fact that the moms were healthier. There was more food for them to eat. Thus, they were healthier and they could help their children survive because they could produce more what? Produce more what? Milk, all right, food for their child. Now, the second question today, why England? Why did this happen in England? I'm gonna write this down. First reason, England has lots of natural resources. They have coal, water, and iron. Write those down. They have coal, water, and iron. They also have a large population because what's happening? The babies are what? The babies living or dying?
Don,
Oh,
yeah.
they're living because they have so much what? Food, all right? People are becoming stronger and healthier because there's enough food. They have an expanding economy. Because of the fact that these big farms are propping up, their economy is booming. They can then sell their surplus food away, and they can sell it to other people. It wasn't just make food for yourself and keep it to yourself. Now you can make more food and sell it to other people. They also have overseas colonies like the US. Now, over here, we talked about taxation without representation was a big issue for the American Revolution. One of the minor issues is that the colonists were upset. Think about this. Adrian chops a bunch of wood in the forest. Okay? Randy asked Adrian to send all the wood back to him in England. Randy makes a dresser. He sends it back to Adrian and says, hey, Adrian, I'll sell you this dresser for $5. Adrian's like, sweet, I got a dresser for $5. Is that fair? Who chopped the wood for it? Who chopped the wood? You. And yet you sent the wood to Randy, and what do you do with it? You made something out of your wood. And then what do you do? Turned it around and sold it to you. Now how you feeling? A little mad about that, right? Like you're supplying the resources and yet you're not getting the break on it. So that happens. England has so many colonies throughout the world. Okay, they didn't just have the American colonies. We're gonna learn about that during imperialism. But they had colonies throughout the world. There was a saying that the sun never sets on the English Empire. Because at some point during the day, the sun would always be up on a colony of the English Empire. And finally, there were no wars on the British soil in the 1700s. We just got done studying about wars in what country? Before the break. What country did we study about? You guys did revolutions. Did a big one in France, in Central Europe. Wars throughout the world, but there was no wars within Britain. Therefore, they didn't have to rebuild anything. They were starting at scratch with these factories. They didn't have to spend money to rebuild cities. they could start building their own new stuff. In a little bit. So why didn't it happen anywhere else? Well, other countries had other things that Britain had, but not all of them. A lot of the other countries had colonies, but they didn't have as many as Britain. Remember, Britain exploited the colonies, just like Adrian got exploited by Randy. Okay? Britain had all the factors of production and resources needed. What are the factors of production? What are the four? Say it out loud. What are the four?
Labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurs.
Labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurs. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is take your map. Take your maps out. And I want you to identify on the map the top is cities, the middle is rivers, and the bottom is countries. You and your partner are going to use your laptops. You can work individually or with somebody on this. And you're gonna locate all these things on the map. I'm gonna give you 15 minutes to do this. Then we're gonna get back together and we're gonna talk about it. All right? All right. What do you guys notice about the location of major cities? Where are they all along? Where are they on? Towards water. Near the rivers, right? Why do you think these are where cities grew? What's the point of rivers? What do they allow you to do? No,
Water wheels?
well, water wheels, but that's way older. But what does water allow you to do? You can do what with it? What was that? Let you grow crops, that's irrigation. Big water travel. You can move what? Huh? Supplies, you can move your goods. All right, the water allowed for the goods to be moved in and out. Meaning, a lot of those rivers led to harbors. Those harbors would then lead out to the ocean. So you could send those goods. So remember that dresser that Adrian bought from Randy? Well, that had to be sent up a river from the factory to the ship in the harbor. Then Randy sent that ship back across the ocean to the colonies, to another harbor, and unloaded it where Adrian bought it. Okay, that's why a lot of these cities have been built along the rivers. Okay? This unit is gonna have a lot of growth. Growth for humankind. We're gonna see a shift in people. Before, a lot of people worried about, remember those pesky Enlightenment thinkers? How people were equal, free, all those rights and equality stuff that we talked about? We're gonna shift, and we're gonna see how people allow money and greed to drive them. No longer are they gonna look at each human being as being an equal. They're gonna look at them a little bit different. Okay, so that's what this unit's gonna give us. We're gonna see that throughout this unit, so keep that as a theme or something in your head to look for. All right, go ahead and put your stuff in your folders, and we'll call it a day.